Hi, welcome to the World Upshift Forum. We're here in Ricci, Italy at the Bay of Poets. And hopefully you've been with us so far for part one earlier of the program. And we had a kickoff last night atop a castle to invite everyone to be a part of the Upshift movement. And what that's really all about is the fact that everything is elevating right now. Humanity's elevating. Our hearts are elevating. Our connections with one another are elevating. And we want to be able to create thoughtful and intentional spaces for that to be alive and well cultivated in our local and global communities. So we're excited that you're with us. Jarvis, we have amazing things on the docket today, don't we?
We do. I got the great pleasure of speaking to some of our partners around the world. Ladies in Africa, people in Europe, and you're now going to see a section of, I'm afraid, a bit more of me doing the interviews, but please just understand that it was the only way we could do it because we didn't and couldn't get everybody here for this year, but everybody's going to be here next year.
That's right. You're all invited. Everyone come next year to Italy. We'd love for you to be here with us.
Absolutely. So don't forget, you can go to worldupshift.org to sign up, and you can, we get to know you by you giving us, information so we can contact you and let you know more about what's going on. And now we're going to hear from Justine Mutale, which is my first conversation. Would you believe I did it last night at the end of the day from the castle? So I'm looking like I'm sitting in the dark and Justine is in a bright room. So it's going to be fun, this one.
Thank you, Jarvis, and congratulations on the first forum. I really wish I could be there, but I'm away in US attending to some other engagements. My name is Justina Mutale, and in 2012, I was honored as African Woman of the Year. I am a board member of the World Upshift Organization. I am founder and president of the Justina Mutale Foundation, for which we advocate for the empowerment of women and girls, especially into leadership positions. But we also advocate for the continuing and retention of tertiary education for young people from disadvantaged communities in Africa. I am originally from Zambia. I can't hear you.
Thank you so much. Sorry. If I were to say to you, how are you currently? I know. I'm sorry. If I were to ask you how you're currently upshifting in the world, how would you reply to that? What would be your response?
I believe that I am currently upshifting in the world through the work that I do, for example, for empowering women as girls. As we all know, women are the guardians of humanity. They are the backbone of society, and also they are natural born leaders. But currently, as you look around in the world, you will notice that there is a deficit of women's wealth, especially in leadership roles. Therefore, you find that very high level decision making tables are always missing the feminine wealth. And I believe that to upshift the world, we will need to have a 50% perspective or female perspective and also 50% male perspective in every decision that we make that impacts on humanity. That way we can have a balance in the world, because when the feminine wealth or feminine representation is missing in leadership and decision making, then you find that women's ideas, women's perspectives, women's thoughts, dreams, aspiration, emerging issues are always missing at that table. So because men and women, even if you are born and grow up in the same family, you kind of have different experiences. So we need to bring that diversity of thought to the table in order to strike a balance in how we do this. And also they do say the children are the future. So I'm upshifting the world by educating the young generation, the next generation, I read somewhere from former UNESCO Director General who said that the children we leave to the world depend on the world we leave to the children. So if we want to live an upshifted world, we need to educate to the children to the upshifted level, upshifted mindset, upshifted outlook to the world, and an upshifted way of doing things in this world. So that is the way I believe I'm upshifting the world. I'm also from Africa. As you know, Africa has the largest population of young people. In some countries, that goes up to 80% of young people below the age of 24. And this is the generation, I believe, that will take the world into the next millennium. So for me, it is very important that we equip the young people, the upcoming generation, with an upshifted mindset and outlook to the world.
Amazing, amazing. Thank you so much. It's so insightful to hear you, and also the influence that you have and the vision that you have, and seeing that, you know, today's young African people are going to be the future leaders of our world because of the way it's evolving. If I were to say to you, you know, what would a perfectly upshifted world look like? If you could see in the future, what would be your vision for that perfect uh, environment for us to live in?
In my mind, a perfect world or perfect environment or an upshifted world to live in would be one in which I would say perhaps if we followed the African philosophy of Ubuntu, which is actually based on awe. It has some of the principles of emotional intelligence, and I think the idea of emotional intelligence was drawn from the philosophy, the African philosophy of Ubuntu, where we believe that I am because you are. I am human because you are human. So we are human because of other humans around us, and also that we have a common bond of humanity as humanity. It doesn't matter what color you are, what sexual orientation, what language you speak, what religious belief you have, as long as you are in part of the human race, we all belong to a greater whole and we all share one bond. Therefore, the suffering of others is our own suffering, and the happiness of other people is our own happiness. So we need to strike that balance that we are looking after one another as we would look after ourselves, just like the Bible says. Jesus told people to love your neighbor and also love even your enemies because they are a part of you. And if we believe that we are one people, as the philosophy of Ubuntu says, we wouldn't go out to hurt the next person, because after all, who would want to hurt the next person? And as long as we have other people left behind, we will never have what we might call peace or even human prosperity, because it's always drawing back on us. If I were to be the richest person in my family and I leave other people behind me, of course, they'll still be drawing onto me and it will still be drawing me back, because I'm wondering, oh, did my brother eat today or they didn't eat yesterday? But if I know that my brother has a job and he earns a good salary that he can help me look after himself and his child, then I am comfortable also with my richness wherever I am with my children. But for as long as other people hold more wealth than others, then we don't have an upshifted world. So an upshifted world will actually be one that we almost go back perhaps to the biblical times where we shared in everything, where you didn't need to have money in order to eat. You just went to a little forest perhaps. Yeah, there were all these natural God-given wealth and God-given food. We have wild fruits and vegetables. We had little wild animals, and we didn't need to pay for them. As long as you had the energy to go and gather these, then you could eat. You didn't have to pay anybody for it. And that is because the land, the world that we live in, we didn't have to pay for it. God gave it to us. It's our God-given gift. It's our birthright. The wealth of the world is the birthright of each and every individual that walks this earth and the planet. And that is what an upshifted world would look like to me.
Wow, that's amazing. Thank you so much. Such words of wisdom and inspiration. And just to finally close before we love and leave you, what are you currently working on? What can you tell us about the work that you're doing currently?
I'm working a number of a number of projects. As you know, women are masters of multitasking. We are always touching here, working here, and doing that, and we do it successfully, so to speak. I have just 2 years ago, during the COVID-19, I did a book called The Art of Iconic Leadership, Power Secrets of Female World Leaders. That is to cement my belief in saying that women are the guardians of the world and they are natural born leaders. In that book, I bring forth the natural wisdom that women have that makes them very effective leaders. And I call those their leadership traits, I call them powers. For example, like I said, the power of emotional intelligence. Women have very high emotional intelligence, and this is because the majority of women do become mothers. So we create life. We carry life within us, and it's been said somewhere, women are the next to God because we create life, and the life grows within us, and the children come, and we have to nurture them until they are free to do what they need to do. So if we've got those natural qualities and natural traits and wisdom to do that, then of course we should bring that wisdom to the public sphere, to the leadership, to leadership roles in trying to navigate this world and see which way the world goes. So with that, I am currently in New York, and we are planning what we call a World Summit on Women and Girls. And this will be to commemorate the United Nations International Day of the Girl Child. Our theme is on AI and female leadership in the digital age, because we don't want women and girls to be left behind in anything. We want to move with the times. So we are going to speak on how AI impacts women and why it is important that women participate in AI positively, in fact, in AI, and of course in the digital, in the technological advancements that are happening, as it is currently with all the advancements of technology, where people are creating a lot of wealth, even some women, but you find that all in all, women are at the negative end, because we do not control the narrative of AI or this digital sphere. So we find that the algorithms work to our disadvantage, the women's disadvantage. So if we can be a part of that, if we can work on that on equal footing as our male counterparts, then we can benefit. We can positively benefit in this new age. And also, if we can bring forth our participate in the decision making, in which way the AI should go and which way all this digital stuff should be done. And of course, like I said, control the narrative and the algorithms.
That's absolutely amazing. And it's so important because, as you say, our current system, the economic system, the way that the industry is set up, it was all set up on a masculine, patriarchal system. So, I mean, Justina, incredible work. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm really, really pleased to be able to get this, rather last minute interview in with you the night before our live session tomorrow. So thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure. And we look forward to meeting you, if not before, certainly in Lerici this time next year. Thank you, Justina. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you very much, Jarvis.
Thank you very much, Jarvis. Thank you.
So another female leader showing us the way there, Justina Matali. I mean, what I was really impressed about, Sammy, what she was saying was about the younger population in Africa, and that because most countries are not having such a young population because they've stopped having children, whereas in Africa it's growing. So there's going to be this massive fusion of younger generations that will become the dominant sector in the global world. So we need to really support Africa and make sure that the infrastructure and the education and all the resources are there, because they're going to be our kind of new mainstream.
Yeah.
which is
the children are our future.
right.
And I love also that she was really calling us to an equality that hasn't been present before in humanity that we know of. Something that maybe could perhaps be part of a new earth that we're co-creating together. That she's envisioning this upshift coming by way of that leveling of the playing field, that we're all here to bring what we have individually and equally. And that would be, I think she was saying, in all ways, right? Of education, finances, everything. So what a wise woman. What a gift that you got to interview her too.
Yeah,
and share that with everyone.
She's really upshifting as well.
Yeah. So who do we have up next?
Well, I mean, it's such a contrast, actually. Next we've got a gentleman by the name of Thomas Legrand, and he's talking about, which I think is fascinating, the politics of being.
Ooh,
so we understand politics as being this kind of, leadership kind of, but he's talking about the politics of being. So this is going to be really interesting. So stay tuned for this one.
Okay, can't wait to see.
Thomas, thank you for joining us. As you know, we're going to be hosting this at the Larici World Upshift Movement Forum first year conference this year. Great that you can come and speak to us, even though you weren't able to join us in person. So thank you. Would you just tell us a little bit about, who you are and what you do? Just introduce yourself.
Thank you, Jarvis. Yes. How can I introduce myself? So maybe first and foremost, I'm the author of Politics of Being, a book I published last year, and whose subtitle is Wisdom and Science for a New Development Paradigm. So it's really a vision about what if we organize our societies for being instead as for having an economic growth. And I guess this book reflects as three kind of important truths that I bring together in this book. The first one is obviously my spiritual journey, which started, I would say, strongly at the age of 23 with an encounter with native spirituality in Mexico, which really changed my life. And later on brought me where I live today in the southwest of France, and next to Plum Village, the monastery of Zen master Thich Nhat Hanh. The second stream, I would say, is that I'm a social scientist. I have a PhD in ecological economics. I've studied programs in Costa Rica for forest conservation. And I've worked a lot in that part of forest conservation, climate change, green finance, etc., especially with development agency and especially the UN organizations. And the third part of me I think is important is that I'm a sustainability professional. So I think that translates in my work so that my what I can recommend also looks feasible from a perspective of people who are implementing that. And I have, as a professional for the last 3 years, I've dedicated myself to lead an initiative convened by the United Nations Development Programme, which is called the Conscious Food Systems Alliance. So it's quite a unique initiative in the UN ecosystem, because we are really emphasizing, focusing exclusively on the role of inner transformation for the transition of food and agriculture systems. So this focus on the link between inner and outer sustainability is really at the core of my work.
Wow, what an amazing set of skills you've got there, and such a wonderful thing to hear that there's a convergence there of, we already know that science and spirituality is converging, but my big thing also is bringing sustainability into that equation. And it's clear you've got science, spirituality, and sustainability. So I'm really looking forward to hanging out with you and talking some more about that. What would you say if I were to say to you, so the World Upshift Movement is about really being a container or a bridge or a network of bringing organizations together, so that firstly, they can teach us how you're already upshifting in the world, and secondly, by joining a great network of others, so that we can do this together collectively. But what would you say if I said to you, how are you upshifting already? What's the kind of really noticeable things that you're doing in your work and clearly in your life that is already beginning to upshift?
Well, to me, my focus is on emphasizing the importance of, or the inner work, the evolution of our mindsets, of our cultures for the shift we want to see in the world. No? And I'm glad to see, this more and more recognized. There is an emerging science around it. And as you said, there is a lot of, different fields of science that are starting to telling us a new story of our human and social potential. And I think, often these are communities organized around, I would say, specific human values. I've mapped them in the book. So, happiness, love, empathy, compassion, peace, culture of peace, mindfulness, life, and how we should harmonize ourselves with how nature works, or complex, integral, systemic thinking. So I think all of these different communities have a part of the answer, and they all need to come together as part of this greater vision that can integrate them all. The need for a great upshift of our consciousness, or what I propose, a new vision for progress of our society that I call the politics of being.
Nice. I love that.
And I have to say, in my work with the Conscious Food Systems Alliance, this has been very important also to offer a space, a community where people can connect, find resources, find peer support, because often, these issues are still a bit taboo in our organization, and people feel isolated. They don't have a space to share about that. So offering that space also is very important, I think.
Yeah, it's a wonderful, commendable work. What are you hoping to achieve with the? I'm interested in the UN development program work that you're doing, consciousness and food. What are you hoping to achieve from that? I mean, is it fair to say that the UN brought the SDGs out and are now realizing that there's absolutely no way that we are going to, as a global nation, meet those SDG targets? So are they now looking at other ways that might have to other tools, if you like, that might have to manifest in order for us to be able to navigate this thing that humans are calling a climate crisis?
Yeah, well, I think there has just been a report being released on how much progress has been done on the SDGs, and it's very disappointing. So I think since COVID, there is a recognition, at least in UNDP, that I know that we need to change our ways of working. So there is a stronger emphasis on the how, some looking for more transformative approaches, how we can collaborate better, how we can dialogue better, etc., etc. Consciousness, is part of that. It can be part of the how. We are partnering with this initiative called the Inner Development Goals, who argues, based on science, that there are some transformative qualities and skills that you need to develop to support achievement in terms of sustainability. So in my book, The Politics of Being, I go even one step forward, which is to say we even need somehow to change the goals, or at least to be clear, I would say, on the kind of theory of change and what is wrong in the old system, in the old paradigm that we need to change. And we need to question what has been our main development paradigm, which has been economic growth, and even recognizing the SDG as a goal, which I think maybe we can argue for. In some cases, it can be a mean, but it's certainly not should certainly not be a goal in itself. So, what do we want to achieve in our Conscious Food Systems Alliance? I think we want to demonstrate that or emphasize the importance of paying attention to the inner dimension as a complementary approach to transform systems, and we want to show that there are actual concrete ways to implement this agenda, to go about it. So it's not only something, theoretical, but we want to show that we can implement this agenda and that it will drive results in terms of food system transformation, opening the doors for, bringing these elements of consciousness, mindsets, values, worldviews into our work to transform other sectors.
It's amazing. It reminds me actually of something I was working on in the build up to COP26. Obviously, it was in Glasgow. It was in our neck of the woods. We were more heavily involved because of the the nature of the proximity of it. But I remember there was a specific program that I was working on, which was around one was called Resilience Frontiers, which was eight new pathways. Really understanding that we're not going to reach these goals by 2030, so how do we have to operate after that? That was one, but the other one was very much about, as you've described, consciousness, looking at old paradigm, new paradigm. Are we trying to fix and solve the problems with that great Einstein quote from the same thinking that caused them, i.e., are we still trying to create economic growth on the basis that we know we're driving ourselves perhaps to the sixth great mass extinction? And actually, what does new paradigm mean? Like, what is new paradigm? It reminds me what you've said actually about what I describe as sacred activism. And what is sacred activism or spiritual activism or conscious activism? Perhaps it's, inner work, inner reflection, mindfulness, eating more consciously, perhaps eating a lot less because we can fund ourselves from the frequency and vibration of nature and all of these different elements. And I love the fact that you've literally addressed old and new paradigm. What could the new paradigm in an upshifted world look like for you? What would be the ideal?
So maybe there's two different approaches to paradigm. One is what I call a development paradigm. So what is the kind of goal we set for ourselves, for our societies? And that has been economic growth in the past. And I argue that it should be about being, you can call it collective flourishing maybe, but basically it's allowing people to become who they are and the best version of themselves. And collectively, I would say it's about cultivating the highest human values, the ones I mentioned before, happiness, love, peace, life, understanding, etc. So that is, and in my book, I have 9 sectoral chapters on what this would mean very concretely in terms of public policies, mainly based on existing examples. So a very profound vision, but also a very pragmatic way to go about it right now with what is existing. And so that's, our kind of development paradigm. And every development paradigm is based on a kind of cultural paradigm. So our economic growth bottom line for society is based also on, modern values and worldviews, right? So for this cultural paradigm, I build on the work of Charles Eisenstein, who outlines that we are moving from the story of separation, a way to understand the world that comes from modernity, to the story of interbeing. And, as I mentioned, all these human values, happiness, love, empathy, peace, etc., there are all science now that have developed around them that can tell us how to cultivate these values in ourselves as individuals, but also in societies. And if you bring this new science, they are telling us very different stories about the world, which I think relates to this new story of interbeing, that we are made of relationships and we are flourishing in relationships, and the people who flourish are really in service of others. And that's why being or interbeing is both good for individuals. It reconciles individuals with societies, while in the old story of separation, where we define success maybe in terms of wealth, power, fame, whatever, it really sets us against each other. So definitely, I think what I mean being, as my teacher Thich Nhat Hanh say, to be is to interbe, and there is also a lot of science that are emphasizing, that we are relational beings, and all I would say relational are based on that vision.
Yeah, no, I love that. I remember a very dear friend of mine who's actually part of the Evolutionary Leaders Network. I understand you are as well, Dr. Jude Coivan, and she'd always use this term. We need to turn from me to we, and it's like, yeah, it's so simple. It's so simple. But Thomas, an absolute pleasure to be connected with you. I want to say to everybody that's listening to this is firstly, if you're interested, please do grab Thomas's book, because The Politics of Being, it just sounds like the most brilliant type of politics you could ever imagine. So I love that. And also to say that, if you want to connect with people like Thomas and, the network of other partners that we've got, then join the World Upshift movement and come and spend time with us, and we can begin to consciously network and join up this mycelium network of human beings that we need to create and re-interlink. So Thomas, thank you. It's been an absolute pleasure. Would love to talk to you some more, but this is it for now. And thank you for coming to join us.
Thank you so much, Jarvis, and sorry not to be able to be there in person. I hope next time I'll be able to meet all of you. Thank you.
Will certainly. We're going to be having an annual event same time next year, so you get it in your diary for next year.
Okay.
Look, thanks, Thomas. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Take care, Jarvis.
Wow. What an amazing man, Jarvis, that you got to interview and spend that time with. One of the takeaways for me, I think, between last night and today, hearing from all of these wise souls, is the diversity that exists already on the planet of just with what lies within us and who we all are. And I love that we're getting the opportunity to really lean in and experience this depth of wisdom in one another. These are people that are actively affecting change on our planet and have these beautiful worldviews that they can share with us and open our minds and our hearts to what might be possible for us to contribute. So this is electrifying to me. Jarvis?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's uplifting. It's heartwarming. It allows me to ooze gratitude. Like I suddenly get into this kind of, I'm just so full of gratitude, which it feels lovely. So yeah, thank you for reminding me of that. It's great.
So wonderful. And we have another segment.
Well, we do. We got a couple more segments from me. I'm sorry about the repetitiveness, but you are going to get a break from me now, because you're going to go to Alessandra from Retake Rome, who is actually one of our, if not the first partner that we got on board for the World Upshift movement.
Wow.
So we're going to hear from Retake Rome, being in Italy, and this is what they're up to in upshifting our world.
Hey there, I'm Alejandra Alfaro Alfieri, the coordinator of Retake Cities in Italy. Retake is a foundation that works to make our places better using creative and sustainable ideas. We are the largest organization dedicated in urban and social regeneration. Our mission is to make common space ours, turning them into beautiful places for everyone by creating projects that can improve areas left in total abandonment and degradation. We do things like fixing benches, painting damaged walls, erasing graffiti off the walls, doing amazing murals, planting and flowers and planting trees. In short, we want to make our neighborhood and our cities more beautiful. To do this, we involve all members of society, citizens, companies, students, institutions, associations, because we believe that everyone in some way can help and contribute to the economic development of our country. We are doing our part for the environment and for our country. We are Retake.
¿Qué número es? Tutti voi, lasciate il giorno. Non buttare, lasciate.
Guarda quanto è bravo questo cittadino.
Qua insieme, maschio, tu sei maschio alfa, vieni dai.
So lovely to hear from Alejandra. Retake Rome it's one of those organizations, Tammy, that if everybody adopted the passion and the commitment to what they were doing in all the territories around the world, it would deal with one of the biggest issues of our time, which is pollution and the way that we're consuming and the things that we're throwing away. So I love that because it's so action orientated.
Yeah, I do as well. I loved hearing from Alejandra. All the work that they're doing is so deeply inspirational. And I actually was just thinking about the segments that we've been watching and participating with today are so oriented towards action, things that you and I can start doing right where we're at today. We can connect with these organizations. We can find outlets in our local communities to participate. These are individuals who are showing us what's possible because they've been doing it in real life in one way in the world, and we can find our own unique contribution. So this is what an enlightening and inspiring day to be a part of this World Upshift Forum. Now, I know that we do have another very, very special person.
We do. I had the great pleasure of again speaking to somebody. His name is Yunus Mahamadi, and what he's doing is working with refugees in Greece. And obviously, there are a lot of refugees now based on all of the issues, whether it's climate, whether it's war, whether it's getting away from, I mean, you might want to talk some more about this because I know this is an area that you know a bit more about.
We do. I mean, Unify, those of you who have been following Unify for a while, has definitely been engaging with the refugee crisis worldwide. And if you are out there in the world today and you don't really know the depth of how this is affecting our fellow humans on the planet, please look up some of these things and do some research and really feel into what this means for you and how you can engage and get involved as well. I know we're going to get some amazing insights from our friend.
Yeah, Jonas. Yeah, and the other thing to mention, I remember when I first got into understanding what we are now calling a climate crisis. I remember reading a document that was put on my desk when I was working with National Geographic when we launched our first magazine, and it said it was a report by a very large holiday company, which I won't name and shame them, but it said that by 2030, 1 in 5 people will be a climate change refugee.
Wow.
And so we haven't even reached the point of climate change refugees, although that is beginning to manifest.
Yeah.
So, the more support and the help and territories that we can open up and, forget about this closing down borders thing and let's be all embracing and help these people. Some islands are already having to relocate because because the seas are rising and they're having to move from their homes. So it's a really important mission. And Yunus is actually taking it head, heart and hands on. So let's hear from Yunus and the work that he's doing.
Yunus, thank you for coming to join me today. It's a great honor to have you here. I know you're not going to be able to join us in Lerici in person, but it just thought it'd be wonderful to have a chat with you. So, Yunus, tell me about, first of all, the Greek Forum of Refugees. What is it?
Greek Forum of Refugees is an organization now which was started as a movement by asylum seeker. And that time that I was an asylum seeker, I was sleeping in the park. There was no reception, nothing. So we started a movement of asylum seekers and refugees themselves from a park at the center of Athens. And little by little, it grew with different refugee communities. And now it is, I can say, an umbrella organization of refugee and migrant communities and individuals that they are advocating for the rights of asylum seeker refugees and people who are affected by statelessness.
Great, that sounds amazing. What kind of impact are you having by bringing this, bringing everybody together?
So what we believe and what we did so long, it is to mobilize asylum seekers and refugees and communities on the ground, and to being active and advocating a kind of self-advocacy to advocate for their rights and to be active citizens, parts of the society. It is what we are doing. Actually, we are advocating for real participation and inclusion of refugees and migrants in all levels of the society, from the ground up to decision-making process. It is what we are advocating for.
That's fantastic. I mean, it syncs so nicely with the, the word upshift that we're obviously using for the World Upshift movement. So what attracted you to be involved with the World Upshift movement? What is it that spoke to you about being part of our coalition, our partnership, our co-creation?
Look, one of the biggest challenge and problems that we have identified and we see now, in not just in Greek level and also in European level, it is a kind of disconnect of the grassroots with the decision makers. Upshift for me, it means that connecting the grassroots and connecting this power, the real power from the ground to the decision-making process. It means that the inclusion of grassroots communities, civil society organizations, and all who are on the grassroots to the every level of decision-making process, which is actually we are working for it, which is what we see for so long time is that there are discussions for us as parts of the society, refugees and migrants, without us. So with Upshift movement, actually, with these initiatives, we are happy that we are part of this, and we will try to tackle this kind of challenge that unfortunately we have in European society.
Fantastic. So what I'm hearing is that by being part of a movement that is, by all the parts, make it something bigger than the individual parts, then that can obviously have a knock-on effect on all of the migrants and the refugees around the world. And actually, I work in the space of sustainability, as you know, and this big issue that we now know is a crisis when it comes to the climate and the breakdown of ecosystems and pollution. Just from your experience and what you're seeing in this very, very important piece in the jigsaw, are you seeing more people becoming refugees and migrants through this issue that we have around the climate?
Sure, that's the problem that we have now. It is not just conflict and wars that brings refugees, that force people to leave, and it is number one the reason now the climate change, that it forced people to leave, and there is no other solution for thousands and thousands of people, hundreds of thousands of people around the world, that they don't have other choice. It is the only choice for them to leave the place that they are living just because of the climate catastrophe, which is I'm not calling climate change. Now it is climate catastrophe, actually, that it is going on, that we see everyday people, they are coming from Africa and from different parts of the world, that I'm living in Greece, so they are coming just because of this climate change that has reigned and has destroyed all the environment and all their lives in the countries and the places that they live.
Thank you very much. Well, Jonas, it's a pleasure to speak with you, first of all. What's more important, it's great to have you as one of our partners for the World Upshift movement. I want to thank you for joining us. This is going to be beamed out to everybody that connects with our conference that's happening in Lerici in a couple of weeks' time. So thank you for meeting with me today. Thank you for sharing who you are. And I shall make sure that we share your information with our audience so that they can connect with you and find out more about you. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much. Thank you too. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
So thank you from Eunice, and I mean it just touches my heart that there are these amazing people out there. There's so many people doing amazing work, and what a great place and a forum to be able to bring people together. So I hope you've been inspired, and I hope that we, in some ways you want to come and join us, and do go to the worldupshift.org page. You can link with us there and connect with us so that you can hear more about what's going on. But more importantly, tell us what you're doing so that next year we can have and showcase your work, right?
That's right. The World Upshift Forum is for you. It's for me. It's for all of us. And one of the most exciting aspects of the World Upshift Organization as a whole is that we are facilitating these engaging conversations and bringing people to the table so that we can explore what's possible when we show up and are present, and lean in with one another, find those genius zones and those things that light us up, and then explore what's possible when we're all together doing something in a new radical collaboration. So if you want to participate in those conversations, you can subscribe, you can get on the list, get involved, come to the calls. And if you love this movement and you want to donate, you can do that too. Just visit us at worldupshift.org. But right now, we have something very exciting.
We do. This one really touched my heart. I mean, they've all touched my heart, but this one particularly, because it vibrated with my history and the various aspects that I'm sure we'll all be touched by. But it's Her Royal Highness Queen Diambi, who is from the Democratic Republic of the Congo. And it's very deep and it's very insightful, and there's a lot of history in this one. So please tune in, and we look forward to seeing you at the end.
So, Queen Diambi, Your Royal Highness, Your Majesty, thank you for joining us today. We're going to be using this recording for our Lerici conference of the World Upshift movement. Would you mind just introducing yourself and telling us who you are and what you represent?
Greetings. Thank you very much for having me today. It's really a joy. Unfortunately, I cannot be live this time for this conference, but I'm very grateful that I have an opportunity to speak. I am Queen Diambi. My full name and title are Mukalenga Mukaji Wankashama Wabakwaluntu Wakasai Wakongo. So I'm Diambi, the bearer of good news. Mukalenga Mukaji means the woman who's a king, or the woman king, of the Order of the Leopard of the Bakwaluntu people in the Luba. They belong to the Luba ethnic group or tribe in the Congo, in the Kasai region, which is the center of Congo. Today it's called the Democratic Republic of Congo, but once a long time ago, the whole basin of Congo was called Congo Diantotila. So it was all the countries of Central Africa were only Congo, because Congo means the land of the leopards, or the land of those who have tamed the leopards. So all the center of Africa was considered to be Congo at the time. I'm also Grande Mãe do Povo Banto Brasileiro, so I'm a traditional queen of the African descendants of Brazil. So there are, over 100 million people in Brazil who descend from Africa. And so they've been there for quite some time, centuries, but they are working, and we are working together to build bridges between them and the continent. And I am one of the elements of the bridge. And so they crowned me in 2019 as the queen, as their traditional queen, as well as I'm also Reina de los Congo de Panama. So it's kind of like the same story in Panama. However, in Panama, the African descendants have kept a very strong Congo identity. So they identify themselves as Congo. So I'm also the traditional queen over there for the same work of, reconciling, all the pieces of Africa that were scattered during, a couple of centuries of human trafficking. So this is, my title, my name, the bearer of good news, probably says a lot about what I do in the world. I either have to create good news or I have to find the people who are, and then I have to announce it to my people. So those are my title. My function is more, because now our countries are republics, so we have presidents. So I'm not a governor of my people, and really kings were never governors either in our traditions. They were more like portals and representative of the abundant ancestral heritage, and also embody the values of our culture. So I'm more like a shrine than an active governor. However, I try to do the best I can to bring a lot of good things to my people. One of them being clean water, because they live in the forest and they don't have access to clean water besides rainwater. So I try to help them get water in the villages, because we have to drill down to get some water wells installed. So that's what I'm doing actively for my people, besides being a good ambassador, I suppose, to represent them and the thought and the paradigm in the rest of the world.
Wow. I mean, what an introduction. Gosh, it's going to be hard to follow that, but thank you so much. It's really beautiful to hear, such history in your beingness, such respect for that ancestral line and for, everything that's got us to the time that we're in today. As you know, this is all part of, you and your organizations and your people are very much a partner with us as a part of our World Upshift movement. How would you say that you and your communities are upshifting in the world right now? And what kind of things are you doing that you would value as upshifting?
Mm-hmm. So the initial shift, we were not privy to it, in the sense that we didn't contribute to making it happen, in the sense that we were the ones who were used to empower other nations by our free labor and also the pillaging of our resources, to create an economic model that we were not the beneficiary of, and also we didn't have any contribution in deciding which direction it would go. Africa is a continent where we have lived as human Homo sapiens sapien for, now we found out, 500,000 years at least, because those are the new data. And then because I just read an article a few days ago that in Africa, in Central Africa, in the country that is called now Zambia, they found wood structures that were used to actually build homes. So, and that they were 500,000 years old. So that we have to rewrite history. The Stone Age is not really the Stone Age anymore, because we were already building with wood homes and structures with wood. So Africa, give or take. So if we've been around in the world as Homo sapiens sapien for, I suppose, for more than 500,000 years, because now if we're building with wood 500,000 years, that means that we might have been there for quite some time before. So what I'm saying is, this is because we left Africa. We're starting to leave Africa around 70,000 years ago only. So humanity's life, humanity's heritage is on the continent of Africa. And so if, let's say, my math is not going to be exactly correct, but, you can correct me. If humanity was to be 100 years old today, and we left only 70,000 years ago, the continent of Africa, that means Africa was our sole home for at least 90 years. So that means that if humanity was 100 today, she left Africa when she was 90 years old. So that tells us something. And of course, the other remained. But that tells us that the abundance of understanding of life, is happened there. And that allowed many to then move into different environments. However, I think that what we neglect is that the longevity of the life experience in an ecosystem that is very familiar, that we have mastered, in the sense that we not master over it, but master to live with it, is quite substantial on the continent and is imbued in all the cultures that are on the continent. And there's so many things that people do not know about Africa. And I think that this is one of the reasons why I'm so vocal and I'm so, outreaching with the story of us, because the story of Africa is not the story of others. It's the story of us. And because of this very brutal and greedy mercantile, attitude of what happened, couple of centuries ago, humanity decided to go in one direction without everybody else. So and we were left out of the box, if I may say, or forced into a box that we didn't agree to. And so I think Africa has a lot to bring to the table in this time, because it's a voice of a wisdom, it's a voice of an intelligence that we have forsaken. And because we have forsaken it, we made ill-informed decisions because our information was lacking. And I think that, for many, many centuries, there was a game played in terms of deteriorating the image and deteriorating the contribution that Africa did to humanity and to your world civilizations. And now it's time to go back and do Sankofa, meaning go back and fetch what was right, and then maybe bring it to the forefront so we can advise our decision and how we design, the future. And so I think that, all these movements are very good and consequential. However, we need to enlarge our field of vision, and we can only do that by including other ways of perceiving reality, other ways of living, other cultures, other ways of imagining a future. Because if it's the same people that have a culture, because it's not just about few, it's a culture that was accepted those values that led us straight to the wall, where nature is a thing that we can just exploit and destroy as we wish, just so we can enrich ourselves and we can quench our thirst for excessive, consumption of goods and services. We owe to say, wait a minute, how can the solution come out of the mind that came and created the problem? And it will take a bit of humility from the Western world and I say Western and Oriental, because unfortunately the Oriental model also mimicked the Western model, like China and so forth. They only copied the West, and they did. We're gonna do like them and better. So for me, Africa does have a chance to do differently, and just have a chance to say, wait a minute, okay, how does that work if we are not around the table? Too often, all these international institutions like the UN, like the World Monetary Fund, like the World Bank, or International Monetary Fund, should I say, like the Organization of Commerce, like World Organization of Commerce or Trade, or the World Organization of Health. All these institutions have been built without us in mind, and certainly without us around the table. So I believe that in the paradigm is the missing elements that would have allowed for more balance and more reflected approach to solve a problem, because that's what industrialization is about. That's why civilization does. It's like we have a problem, we find a solution to solve it. So technology, all of that is only solution devices. We could have maybe used other, or we could have built others if we had been more inclusive of this diversity and the abundance of wisdom and knowledge we have from other people, rather than use a purely Eurocentric, in essence, or Western-centric approach. So I think that this is my people I have an abundance of knowledge. My people have an abundance of understanding that could advise, the upshift movement, only if they include it in the mix. And they are oftentimes disregarded because there is such a huge image deficit about Africa, and very few actually care to even explore, because they have a cultural blind spots. And that's where I come in to say, wait a minute, okay? In Congo, we are doing mathematics 25,000 years ago. This is in Africa is where we first map out the sky with the stars over tens of thousands of years ago. In Africa, it's the first medicine, it's the first practices of healing. In Africa is the first architecture. So we have now, you heard me speak about wooden structures to build homes. So how come a place that is the home of all these things, and furthermore, I can even add the binary code system that allows us to have this conversation today with those devices that are now programmable machine. The binary code is an African invention, and not from yesterday, but for hundreds and hundreds of years ago. And we have all these records, but because of the narrative that is so negative about the continent, and because of the posture that we have had in the Western world, and I include myself also in the Western world because I am a Westerner, mixed, we have forsaken an abundance of resources that I think it's time we start to explore, and we start to see how it can inform us, so we can build that upshift movement in a more sensible way and in a more holistic way.
Wow, I mean, gosh, I mean, just the education and the the wisdom that flows through you, and also the honoring of that story, a story that needs to be told. We all know it. We've all, our ancestors are all a part of it. And I completely honor you for being so open and direct with that. Thank you so much. If I were to, there's two questions I would like to ask you, because you've totally inspired me. I mean, just a bit of background. I come from an Indian father who was, kicked out of India through the partition, and I ended up, he ended up in England, and that's how he met my mum. So I do have some of this in kind of indigenous cultural mismatch in information, but it's in the DNA, right? But one of the things I wanted to ask you, and thank you for touching me so deeply, is how far do you think we are on reconciliation, on the healing of this story? Are we anywhere near that kind of journey at the moment?
There's a yes and there's a no. The no comes because reconciliation can only happen after there is a truth. And the truth is about telling the truth and revisiting the story, so the story can be told in order to bring balance. Balance and harmony. So without the truth, there cannot be a justice. And when I say justice, I'm not saying it's not a justice of a trial, but it's a justesse. If I may use the word French, it would be justesse. So it's what is just. And once you have reached that point, then you can have harmony, you can have balance. But for too long, we think we cannot move forward if we, like, let's say if we have a car that has 4 wheels and then you're missing 1 wheel, you cannot go forward. So you have to address that missing wheel. And I think it's even more than a missing wheel, because if Africa is where we come from and where we've developed and where we became human, it's quite important. It's quite important, and I feel like the 80% or 90% of the missing history, of Africa in our books is really 90% of missing world history, and we cannot advance only with 10% of it and thinking we're going to make sound decisions. It's not possible. So that's where I feel like it's a no, because there's still a lot to be done. And it's hard because my mother is European, so I understand that the European today or the Westerners, they don't really want to dig, and in that pot of mud because it's quite muddy and ugly. But we have to understand it's not have to be done to chastise anyone. We understand that we are just born. We don't choose where we are born. And so we don't choose what we inherit. So as much as the African ancestors in me have inherited this transgenerational trauma, I know that the other ancestors in me and, and the people that represent my Western heritage have inherited this transgenerational guilt. And so how do you reconcile the both? And we, like yourself, are people that are kind of like have to be able to reconcile within those two entities and understand that the healing has to take place on both sides. It's not just, we've been, traumatized, but also we have traumatized and traumatizing others and mistreating others and dehumanizing self to treat others this way, because it's not dehumanizing others. I feel it's dehumanizing self. It's also a traumatic experience that needs to be healed. So I think we're still a long way from that, especially that when you look at I will give you an example of the fact that we only allocate about 2% of the archaeological research budget to Africa. So how does that help us understand and tell the real story of the continent, the real story of us? So we can also reconcile with self. So there's a discrepancy between, what the reality is showing us and what is really, what is it that we are doing to meet that reality. And so the yes part, because there is a yes part, is that I meet a lot of people that are, understanding that there is an imbalance somewhere. Some of them don't always know where, but they know that this system can no longer continue this way. So, the uplift movement is a formidable example. So yes, indeed, even those who were the beneficiary of this greed paradigm are realizing that, wait a minute, there's more to life than this, because apparently there is a trade-off between having more, and happiness or joy or balance. So they're realizing that what did we trade to get there? And maybe they're not willing, or the future generations are not willing to do the same trade. They want to capture back, they want to get back some pieces of their humanity. And also, humanity doesn't mean just living in peace with others. It's living in peace within and without, meaning living in peace with nature. So I see a lot of Westerners going to the Amazon, going to Africa to connect with nature, to be with indigenous tribes, to learn. So in maybe the younger generations, or also some of the older generations that are starting to come around to realize that, wow, I worked an entire life to accumulate all this wealth. I mean, not wealth, these things, because wealth is something different in my standard. Is wealth is your ability to impact people's life in a positive way. That's what I consider wealth. Everything else is just things. So, and they realize that, well, I have all of that, but here I am. I'm miserable. I'm in depression. I'm taking antidepressant. I cannot sleep. I need to take anxiety medication, or I'm on drugs, or I need my glass of wine, 2-3 glasses of wine every day. My children and I, we don't speak. Everybody live in their own rooms. Everybody has their own TV, so it's like, I seen it because I'm a psychologist, and I was a psychologist in Boca Raton, which is like the Beverly Hills of Florida. And you have people with so much material, wealth, and they have everything, you would think. And yet they have an emptiness that is beyond what you can understand if you correlate happiness with the ownership of things and ownership of amenities and comfort, which was the discourse of development. So that was it. Get your white picket fence house, and you're gonna be happy. You're gonna have, your wife, your 1.5 child with your dog and a half cat, and you're gonna have the stuff you can eat as much as you want. The fridge is full. The vacation, and then yet you have all of this, and all that built on the back of people, or at the expense of other people's, comfort, because we pillage from everywhere. We took people's land. We took people to work for free. We took resources for free that we never paid for. We accumulated all this wealth or all this stuff, and yet something's just not right. So there are people living in that paradigm that are saying, stop. We don't want this anymore. We can do better than that. And this is why I say yes to the answer. But we still have a long way to go, and we still have to include a more diverse approach, and also to take a very humble stance when it comes to the Western paradigm and say, yes, I know you're smart and you have science and you have all your books and blah, 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 and all your monies, but be humble, because that's here. It's still the result of what is in your collective mind. So you have to take a step back and maybe let open up a bigger space for diverse voices to come in place to complete, your experience and to complete your analysis with additional information.
Thank you. Such beautiful, information, that you're sharing with us. So thank you. I'm conscious of time because I know that you have to fly to another session, but thank you so much, Your Majesty Queen Diambi, for joining us, for giving us that very strong, powerful, wise, ancient and future message. And I thank you for the balance of the two sides as well. It's such a great appreciation for having you. Thank you for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you in person, certainly as soon as possible. Have a lovely time in Europe when you're here.
Yes, I will be in Europe soon. I'm now in America, and after Europe, I will be back in Africa. But thank you for having me, and I hope that we can continue this discussion and dialogue. And I really wish all the best for this wonderful conference, and for my greetings to all the participants and all the speakers and all those who are going to drop some gems in wisdom and knowledge. Because yes, we only do it best when we do it together. So I'm happy to be part of this community, and I welcome the opportunity to come and meet with some of you and eventually add the voices of my people in this patchwork of resources that we already have assembled. Thank you so much.
You're very, very welcome, and with great humility, you would absolutely be all welcome. And in the style of Master Shah, who is the great person that brought us together, thank you. Love you, and we look forward to speaking to you again soon.
Thank you.
Wow. What a beautiful soul and an amazing person. And you got an opportunity to interview her and be with her in that space. I'm in love just listening to her.
I did. And I, as you can tell, I was really moved and inspired by it. I mean, she really touched my heart, as everyone has. But this particular story, it's so important, because if we are going to upshift, if we are going to work with the raising of consciousness, work with the raising of frequency or vibration or whatever it is, we don't really know, do we? But if we are, then we've got to be able to honor our past, and honor our history, and tell those stories, and because it's all part of what's brought us to where we are today. Maybe that was just all part of the plan, right? So that's what I think is really beautiful about this whole session that we've just experienced, is the action, the honoring, and the owning up that we're all part of a problem, and we can all be part of a solution.
Yes, absolutely. I love that so much. We are the great storytellers, the great translators of our time, right? We have this opportunity to engage, to find that story that needs to be told, to find that story that needs to be lived out, and honoring those who have come before and our own past and everything that we're connected to, our ancestry, those kinds of things. I think at this stage in life and in humanity right now will continue to progress and emerge and come to the forefront, because those are things that must go before us with honor if we're going to build a beautiful foundation for what is to come.
Absolutely. So please do connect with us if you're feeling moved to do so. It's the worldupshift.org. You can come and you can just get involved with us and tell us your stories and tell us what's going on in your world and how you're upshifting, right?
That's right. And we do have one more segment a little bit later for you today. But this is, if you're just tuning in or you've been with us for a little while, this is part of the World Upshift Forum here from Lerici in Italy. And of course, there will be one next year that if you're feeling moved and called, you can definitely come to and be here personally and look at the ocean, the Bay of Poets, and all the magic and the deep-rooted history that's here as well. But ultimately, this is an opportunity for you, right where you're at, to be able to engage and participate in a much larger conversation about the upshift, the global upshift for humanity, for Earth, for all of us at this time. And you want to visit us at worldupshift.org to get more information.
Yeah, join us. Come and be part of this growing network. And it actually, after the break, which we're having now, we are going to be speaking to Roger Casale, who was our CEO, and he's kind of pulled the whole thing together. And we were just earlier on, we were talking about history, and we're in this, you know, in this very sacred place that was inspired by the great poets, Shelley and Byron. So we'll be talking a little bit about that, but also how the magic and the energy is drawing so many people from around the world in so quickly.
Yeah.
So
quickly.
Stay with us. We're going to have a small break and we should be seeing you again very soon.
Yes, be a part of it with us. Thank you.